software that wants to kill them. No, wait, us.
No, you all.
Everyone not us. I'm going away now. Give him a hand.
First of all, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for not fleeing to the airports and getting on all your flights. Oops.
And you all have choices, right?
We all have choices. And speaking of choices, thank you for also skipping the extremely exciting PCI panel going on next door.
We were going to go.
In fact, I'm just introducing the talk. I'm going to that one. Yeah, exactly, the panel. All right, I'm Mike Poor, a Packet Ninja, large red Packet Ninja.
I'm Kevin Johnson, Web Pen Test Samurai, not so large and red.
And Justin Searle, Smart Grid Sensei.
Mr. Miyagi of the Power Grid.
Yeah, power on, power off. Yeah. Fun. So the typical attack focus when you look at risk management, it commonly focuses on OS, application vulnerabilities, network and infrastructure vulnerabilities, and most of the infrastructure and policy defenses are designed to deal with this, as we all know. Not that isn't important. Of course, we're not going to deal with these vulnerabilities. Over the last 6 years or so, we've had this major paradigm shift in... Exactly. Bingo is what you're supposed to say. In the focus against client-side attacks, going after our browsers, email clients, apt, not necessarily the pack manager anymore, as we all know.
Debian is evil.
Yeah, Debian is evil.
And by the way, we're releasing the next version of Samurai WTF on Debian.
Nice.
No,
nice.
we're not.
not going to happen. Which is all fun. But today we're not going to be talking about vulnerabilities, well, pretty much at all. Yeah. So I'm not going to do my Steve Ballmer impersonation, but features, right? Yeah. If you've ever thought of smoking crack, you might be a developer. All sorts of fun stuff. All of the client-side apps, the web-based apps, and every other app are wanting to include more and more functionality, more features. Well, I shouldn't say functionality because that implies that somebody might actually want to use them.
I do.
Yeah. I got a query last week from a potential client who is a financial institution who wants to add social media applications to their electronic banking application.
I want to chat with your savings account.
What savings account? Exactly. This brings about this lovely feature-rich application surface for us to interact with, whether it's, Kevin's alternate, personalities on Facebook. In case you haven't noticed, all of us are all coming out as Kevin's alternate Facebook applications.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't say we're all coming out, but I guess I just did. All sorts of fun stuff. So the big thing is that, when we're looking at, the security controls that we've put into place to deal with situations, we look at, for instance, the long history a long time ago where we have, Microsoft, getting their behinds handed to them many times in a row, from Code Red to NIMDA to Blaster to then SASR to then being all forced to have a code freeze, learn security coding, from the ground up. They improved quite a bit, not entirely, but quite a bit. Everyone, of course, having their default deny inbound firewalls and other controls, always good. They don't necessarily have a default outbound policy yet, but we're working on them as we go along. But here's the deal. All the controls are mainly designed to deal with vulnerabilities being
Exploits.
What's that?
Exploits.
Lovely. Not necessarily to detect the useful, malicious features being used against us.
Oh, in fact, it's even better. We're actually requesting those features to be part of our applications.
Sweet. Awesome. So let's turn that on. Talking about a few of them, we're going to go through a couple of these examples of where these features can be pwned, abused, and abused again. We're going to be releasing some of these examples. Some of these examples are already going to be released immediately after the talk for you to go out and download and start experimenting. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about today will have to wait till the vendors actually get their stuff together, or Monday, whichever one comes first. Are there any Adobe Flash developers, managers, or otherwise in the crowd? Okay, then is Jennifer Granick in the crowd? All right, fun. So Flash, let's make our web pages pop, zing, zang, zoom, move around, do all these wonderful things. And of course, let's create this lovely, secure way of delivering that to our end users, right?
I always thought to myself, it's obvious to everybody that Flash, Adobe in general, would be bad at security.
Why is that?
Well, because their entire focus is on artsy-fartsy, let's design stuff, let's graphic design. And the best damn logo they could come up with was a red square. It's got a gradient.
Yeah, and there's major widespread support, right, for SWIP objects. Well, unless you've got one of the Lego brick applications.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
So, cross-domain. The cool thing about Flash, well, cool from my perspective, is that it was designed for cross-domain stuff. At least that's what developers are asking for, right? It started as animation, as Mike said. We've started to build this feature-rich, evil-rich, ability for these Flash objects to go out and retrieve data back and forth from other websites, bring it back down, and combine it into a single environment, right? We've always thought about mashups as a Web 2.0 technology, brand new, but Adobe's been giving it to us for years. I think you can take that sentence any way you want. So we've got this ability to pull this content down, and then in the brilliant crack-smoking reality they live in, they decided that JavaScript's same origin policy didn't make sense. So what do you do when you're a smart developer?
Reinvent the wheel.
Yes. They have their own policy for controlling what sites that Flash object can retrieve content from, modify content from, display content from. And that's where we bring up cross-domain, right? The funny thing to me
Anton trying to get in.
He didn't even want to go to the panel? Oh, PCI. By default, it behaves the same way as the same origin policy. So why reinvent something if you're going to do it the same way? Well, except wanting.
Because square wheels are better.
Square wheels are better, especially on that snowy hill outside. Who else votes for them adding a chairlift to the hill coming into the ward mint? Right?
And just for all of you that were actually sliding down the hill on your belly head first into the corner, yeah,
That's awesome.
They might want to straighten that out too.
They might, yeah. Even when there isn't snow, that hill sucks.
Unless you walk up backwards.
The image of Justin walking up a hill backwards. So the idea is we're allowing developers and admins of applications to decide what domains are allowed to retrieve content from our site. Like I said, it's the same origin. The big difference is the server that's hosting the content can control who is able to bring that stuff down. They use a cross-domain.xml file, which is most likely in the web root, but can actually be controlled by the developers and admins as to where they want to grab it from. Now this file, it's very simple, right? The thing that most people miss is it's not what sites is my Swift file allowed to pull content from. It's what domains are allowed to host Swift files that can pull content from me. So I'm hosting my content, Mr. Bank site.
Thank you very much.
And I'm allowing Swift files to pull this content. Now, what's really great from an attacker perspective is that it allows wild cards. We can have something like splat.
When cards go wild.
Ooh, that's a video series. I saw it on the hotel TV last night. We can have splat.inguardians.com, and that means www.inguardians.com, inguardians.com, justin.inguardians.com, whatever is allowed to pull content, is allowing all of those sites to pull content from that server, right? Now, this is a concern that's been brought up before, right? We've been talking about this for, well, years. It's gotten really popular in the last few months, which I laughed because we were working on some of this stuff then. It was like, damn it,
Not new.
Shmoocon is just too far away, right? Now, when this came out and all the blog postings were being put up there and everything else, Adobe came out and actually said, this is okay, we know about this, we accept this security risk. Not only do we accept it, we warn developers of it. They've got a little blurb, as a matter of fact, it was quoted on the previous slide, enabling a cross-domain.xml file may expose your site to attack, right? But in my opinion, just saying, hey, don't do stupid shit, hasn't stopped the human race from doing stupid stuff for years.
Case in point.
Right? Yeah? My parents.
Just because it is configurable doesn't mean people will configure it.
And the sad part is the ones that do configure it, well, we'll get to that, right? Now, the Adobe website actually hosts all kinds of documentation and tutorials. Hey, do you want to write a Flash application? Do you want to do something securely? Come talk to us, read our stuff. And that documentation, just in a simple read of some of it, as I was learning how to build Flash objects, as Mike and Justin were learning how to do this, we were reading these things, we're finding cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery. And the most common vulnerability we found in these tutorials are SQL injection.
In the tutorials that are teaching you how to develop these things securely.
From the Adobe website. Now, we don't assume that Adobe has written all of these tutorials, right? We don't want to stand up here and say...
because that would be quality.
Right.
Total quality.
Yeah, it would be better. But is Craig Simmons in the room?
Craig?
Just checking.
All right. Good.
This is one of the examples that we got, right? This was written, supposedly, because we believe everything on the web, Adobe Developer Connection, Craig Simmons, who is the senior
Lead. And?
quality engineer. He wrote a tutorial called Using ActionScript 3 to retrieve MySQL data using server-side ASP scripts.
MySQL data?
MySQL data.
Yeah.
Well, it is now.
Yeah. Oops.
I did find it funny, though, using MySQL with a Windows technology just seems an odd combination. And in this script, right, he's giving you the ASP script, he's giving you the XML file that the Flash object will send to the server and retrieve from the server, and he's giving you the Swift file that contains this action script. What does this action script do? It builds an XML document with a series of full SQL queries that are sent via an HTTP post up to the ASP file, which parses the XML document, takes the query from the client application, and runs it against the database. You know, this isn't even SQL injection. This is SQL request. You're asking for it.
Thank you.
And I have to
Please.
say, yeah, please, yeah, it is quality, right? This is just one sample of the examples we found on the website.
You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. I tried.
Nope, nope. If we made it up, it would be more realistic.
Well, yeah, especially if I wrote it. If I ever hand you any code to run in production, smack me. Never mind that. So, of course, you know, we pretend to be engineers. We pretend to like the scientific method. So we pretend to want at least some actual data to start backing us up. Because, you know, surely, you know, we wanted to find out, well, how many crack smoking folks have actually, well, implemented this and then, well, left it wide open to attack. So what do? Well, we went out to Alexa, which hosts a comma separated values file of the top 1 million domains on the net. And then we decided to scan all 1 million top domains on the net, try to pull their cross-domain.xml file, and examine it for, well, you know, how much crack are they smoking?
Lots.
Yeah, well, apparently. So the first thing we did in the script was check with Google SafeSite to see if you are blacklisted. If you were blacklisted either for malware or viruses or whatever, you were removed from the list. That removed, well, quite a few of the top 1 million domains on the web, but that was good stuff. And then we started up our scan. Now, we did have a little problem with our scan in that, well, about 410,000 domains into what was left after the Google Safe Site list was done. Well, our internet connection dropped. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
Yeah.
Is that my
No.
Is that my Fi device you were using?
Nope.
Nope, Comcast for the win.
Woohoo! All right. And we pulled the crossdomain.xml file, parsed it to examine what crack were they smoking, right? So the results from the scan, of the 410,000 sites scanned for the crossdomain.xml file, 39,990 actually had it. So either they implemented Flash or Silverlight, and whether they had it still or just left the crossdomain.xml file on there, didn't really matter to us. Of the 39,990 sites hosting a crossdomain.xml file, 15,104 allow any site on the internet to pull data from their site. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, quality. That's a lot of crack. And on top of that, 2,156 of them allow full header control on that manipulation. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Boneheads for the win. Quality. On top of that, in parsing the crossdomain.xml file, we noticed that, people put lots of interesting information in the crossdomain.xml file so that they can tell which sites, including internally, can pull information from their site. So 47 of them expose their intranets. 515 of them allow pulling from localhost.
Now, the people pulling from localhost just goes back to prove how great the Adobe documentation is. Because since Flash by default allows same origin, and that would mean that the Swift file had to come from localhost to pull there, they don't need to include that in the cross domain.
Yep.
You're right, docs are enough.
Yeah, and 843 of them expose their internal IP address schema, right? All sorts of fun stuff.
Now, the other question that comes up all the time, so what? You can read my content. I don't care. I want people to read my content. It's like, wait, do you not understand how this works? So we go through all this stuff, as consultants, babble. We decided it was much easier just to show you. So we created a weaponizing Flash script. This is the action script necessary. You embed it in a Swift file. Host the Swift file somewhere. I don't care.
Your Swift file, somebody else's Swift file, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Facebook application, anyone? Then, when they load the Swift file comes back up to the server of the attacker, me. By the way, if you're going to use this in your Swift files, you probably want to change what controller server it's talking to.
Yeah, I recommend that.
Yeah, I get to play with your clients.
Again.
Oh, yeah. It then goes, reads a file off of my server and says, hey, what site do you want me to submit content to and get the results? We hand it to it. Now we could fire just cross-site request forgery attacks where we don't care about getting the results. But if then we use one of the crack smoker meth heads that have implemented the wide open ones, well, then let's grab the request, send it out, get the results, send the results of that request back to the attacker controller script. And then what do you do then? Loop back around, start the party all over.
Is that bad?
I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. My perspective might be warped. That means we can remotely control this Swift file. Why not? This will be available at inguardians.com/tools once we're no longer snowed in. Coming from Florida, this shit's freaking me out.
He's allergic to snow.
As I found out last night when Bob threw me into a snowdrift.
Over and over again.
You should have seen his sad snow angel. So Flash is not the only application that we have that's providing us wonderful, wonderful features. We also have a great, great application that we all know and love, both from a penetration testing perspective as well as from a user perspective, called Firefox.
This is not Project Aurora.
So Firefox provides multiple different add-ins. Okay? Some of those add-ins give you lots of fun things to do, like keep track of how long your browser's running.
How long have I been surfing porn? I know I started on Tuesday morning, but...
And what about being able to find somebody's website and shoot it up? Have competition, see how fast you can destroy the content on the website via this wonderful little extension.
Well, I have some domains for that.
So great little fun that we have with them. In fact, if you look at today's statistics for Firefox extensions, almost 2 billion Firefox extensions have been downloaded as of today, just barely shy of that. And you look at current Firefox extensions currently being used, Firefox, or I should say Mozilla Foundation estimates that there's about 150 million extensions currently in use today. So it's a bit
And that's just on Kevin's browser.
Well, aren't they all mine?
That's what I meant.
So what can we do with this? This is great functionality, great feature sets. Well, we have several different vulnerabilities that we can exploit. Vulnerabilities that we use normally to attack client-side web pages like cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery. We have beef plugins, beef hooks, be able to snag somebody's browsers.
Thank you, Wade.
Yes, definitely call out for Wade. But all these vulnerabilities usually require us to, number one, get it on somebody's website where we can get that user to snag that content. Number two, get that page to stay persistent in their browser. Well, Firefox extension, we don't have that issue anymore. That extension is permanently running 100% of the time in your browser. So, great feature. We can provide all sorts of very, very interesting content to you, content that is very, very visible to you, and all sorts of content that is visible to me.
That's not bad, is it?
No, not at all.
How many people here have a MiFi device?
Wait, just 1 second. By the way, the zombifying my browser code takes 1 line of code added to the extension, right? That's malicious. Not as malicious as no script, but.
Oh yes, and if you want to be able to do a penetration test and have a persistent hook into somebody's browser, you also can gain access to their client machine, go into one of their currently running extensions, make a slight little tweak of your own, get back out, and they're never the wiser.
Modularity and extensibility, thing of beauty, isn't it?
Yes.
But back to my question, how many of you have a MiFi device? I know I do.
One of these beautiful little things.
Anyone
else?
else?
The Verizon version, the Sprint version is silver.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know.
And I gave it back to you last night.
Last night.
Okay, so MiFi. We've heard several different vulnerabilities over the last few weeks affecting this MiFi device. So here's a brief little history over the last month. Early in January, it was discovered that the web administration page for your MiFi devices have several different vulnerabilities. How many of you guys saw this? It was tweeted out, it's a couple pages.
Baldwin
so
Brothers
not
for the
many of
win.
you.
Yeah, I had no idea the Baldwin brothers were security researchers, but hey.
Okay, so pretty severe cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, and the fun one, authentication bypass. They will check to see if you're logged in on all of 3 of the many pages that is available.
Oh, and Verizon knows about this, and they are working on that.
Yes, it is actively being.
And I talked to them specifically on Friday, and they said, "Don't worry, you have to be within 15 feet of the device to pull it off."
So,
how close are you guys to me?
okay, then it was discovered that one of the pages that is susceptible to the the authentication bypass was the configuration file. So all you have to simply do is request the configuration file from the browser without logging in, and it will very gladly give that page to you. Not only that, if you want, you can actually send it back up to the client, and it will automatically take that in, run whatever you tell it to do. Wait a minute.
Glad that wasn't mine.
That's okay. Good thing I have copies of all your configs anyway. So, and then last week, Joshua Wright, one of our fellow coworkers,
Yay, Josh.
gave us an article discussing about some of the weaknesses in the way that Verizon, in particular, had set up the default SSIDs and the default passwords for those SSIDs. And we have Hikari from Pico was kind enough to run some, or is in the process of running a couple hash dictionaries for us. And it's going to take him about 37 hours is all to calculate every single possible default SSID and default password for MiFi devices.
Thanks, Hikari. He rocks. Yeah,
Yes.
Pico.
Rocks hard.
Good stuff, man. Yep. And rocks fast.
Okay, and as of today, we build upon this. Okay, so first thing I did when I got my MiFi device, jumped into it, looked in the configuration file, So, okay, this is kind of limited on what I can do. That's not really cool at all.
And you left it by default, right? Because that's what we all do.
Oh, yeah. No, of course not.
How many of those that actually have a MiFi device actually left it in default mode? Oh, none
Raise
of
your
you?
hand, Tom.
You're
Raise
screwed.
your hand, Tom. Okay, so I went through and I found on one of the pages a very, very odd setting that was one of the default settings. So if you look up here on the port forwarding page, they have HTTP port forwarded over to Never Never Land. This is an IP address that
Michael
is a valid
Jackson's
IP
dead.
address in the WLAN in your wireless network. However, it's something that's not populated or an IP address that will never be issued out. And what did I do as a security professional? I disabled it. Okay? Why allow traffic from the internet to go through my device out into Never Never Land? Because that's just stupid. It's wasteful.
Security for the fail.
I know. Then another thing that I did is I also went through and changed my default IP address range for my wireless network. Okay, 198 or 192.168.1.1 is just something that I find a little too common. I didn't like it. I quite often will do multiple route tables through multiple interfaces when I'm doing penetration tests, and I didn't like that
I always use
setting.
the 6.6.6 network.
No, actually 10.6.6.6, if anybody's interested in jumping on.
Well,
So-
the
so you're-
6.6.6 network is owned by Milnet, so it's much more evil.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That's
So
basically what
you're more secure.
Oh, I'm much more secure.
Yeah.
I secured my MiFi device. I made sure that nobody could get into my MiFi device.
Fail.
Guess what? If
Fail.
you remove that setting, you are now susceptible to authentication bypass from the freaking internet.
Yeah. The freaking internet.
I've seen that site.
Dude, I run that site.
You
So
sent me the link.
this web admin page, by default, runs on all interfaces, including your cellular interface, which runs on a public IP address, which is accessible from the internet. So if you remove these settings, anybody that happens to get out there and scan for it will find your device, find the configuration, and will have the option to upload their own configuration to your MiFi device.
Well, what's in a configuration file for these things?
Oh, there's absolutely nothing in the configuration file for these things other than the password to control the device, the SSID for your wireless network, the PSK for your wireless device, and all sorts of other interesting settings that if you accidentally put in other information, the device fails to function anymore.
Nice.
That's a cool password.
It's a really cool password. It's kind of a fun password, huh? You know
Wha-
what?
wha- wha-
I have
why-
never found any password cracker ever figure out my passwords. Never.
That's awesome.
By the way, that is your device, Kevin.
Damn.
It's not my device. And yes, that is my password on your device.
Nice.
I hate when he does that.
So what do attackers do with this? Of course, they would simply scan the internet trying to find these devices. If you look at Verizon, Verizon has about 4 million IP addresses dynamically assigned to your MiFi devices when they connect up to the internet.
Or 8 million if you trust Nmap's output.
Yes, so when you scan a whole bunch and you force Nmap to do a whole bunch in parallel, it tends to have some interesting output every now and again. But
if you had scanned.
if you had
Right,
scans,
right.
of course, only if you had scans, and if you had those scans, and if you wrote an NSE script that automatically extracted this data out,
if you were gonna release it to
theoretically
everybody
it
at the
should only
conference.
take about 2 days to scan all 4 million IP addresses and find interesting data.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking, of course.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Enough.
And there's an issue out there. There is a problem.
Jennifer
there are
Granick in the
people
crowd?
that are vulnerable. So fix your devices. It's luckily not too bad. Apparently, there's a whole bunch of people that by default don't bother ever changing these values. There's a whole bunch of more people that do change these default values to disable that port forwarding because it's a security flaw, and fail to change their default admin password.
Yeah, that was quality.
Admin, ADMIN. Only about 40% of all devices found hadn't changed their default password, and 60% of all devices hadn't changed their default PSK and SSID.
Hypothetically found, right? Your
Yeah,
friend was doing
my
it.
friend was
right,
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah, maybe.
Well, actually, we had 2 friends that also followed in suit. How many of you found Tom? Oh, never mind.
Okay, so solution. We rejoin the asylum. We enter in, we accept the craziness, and we port forward HTTP back to Never Never Land. When you do this, make sure that you use a valid IP address within the wireless IP address range that your MiFi device has. So if you change it from the 192.168.1.0 network, make sure you put in a valid IP address on whatever network you assign to your device. If you put something else in there, it will look like it's port forwarding, but it really doesn't.
Quality.
Okay. Other little pieces of advice that we should also mention. If you do this port forwarding, realize that this is only a fix from the internet. Okay, people that you allow onto your MiFi device still have full access to all these vulnerabilities. They can still have full control of your device. So what does that mean? Never, never, ever put your MiFi device in hotspot mode, which opens it up to the world, lets anybody they want to jump onto the device.
Damn.
And never share your MiFi password with somebody that you don't absolutely trust and don't mind if they change your configurations. So, or you have something to
Like Kevin.
hang over their heads and make sure that they change it back to what it's supposed to be.
Put in a slide.
That was good.
So, and the very last thing is, of course, all of us like our MiFi devices because we hate tethering things to our laptops. Unfortunately, the only way to flash these things is connecting it up to the USB port and running the application and forcing it to do an authentication. By default, it'll do a re-authentication every 30 days. You can force it to do authentication by authorization?
Yes.
Activation. There we go, the other A word. Yeah. So you can force it to do an activation inside the menu. Just tell it to do an activation. It'll grab the newest firmware. The newest firmware as of today, I think, was middle of January. Keep on doing this periodically because Verizon does know about this issue. They are working to fix this issue. So hopefully we'll have a fix very soon and it will automatically be pushed to your devices as long as you tether and run the application. If you never do that, it'll never update.
Did Justin tell people to just suck on their Verizon Wi-Fi?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're lickable.
They're
lickable.
No,
They're lickable.
iPhones are lickable. MiFis are not.
Which is
He always gets them confused.
Which is which?
Yeah. Fun, fun, fun.
Which brings us to my new favorite exploration playground, right?
Every time Kevin says, my new favorite thing, run.
We found a new group of crack smokers, the W3C.
Want 3 crack rocks is what I think it means.
Probably. So these guys are about to release, are working on the 5th revision of HTML. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the way I've always thought of revisions is you get better.
They are getting better for us.
That's a good point. So the W3C is developing HTML5 and all of the standards around it, the extensions, the other things they're working on in tandem with HTML5 to focus on the idea that the web has changed. We're no longer the gray background, black text, blue links, unless you've clicked on it, and then it becomes purple, right? We now have fully functional, wonderful, thick applications running in our browser. And so the W3C talks about in the introduction to HTML5 is that the focus of HTML5 is web applications, which most people look at and go, yeah, web applications, that's exactly what we want them to do. We want them to focus on web applications because that's what we're building. Did you people forget HTML is a client-side language?
Wait, isn't it a hypertext markup language? Isn't it not supposed to do anything? That was the whole point, wasn't it?
Markup? Yeah. Well, it's going to mark up your reputation. So they're adding all of these features and power to the browser. Up on the slide is just a sampling of the cool, new, brilliant, tripping features.
I want some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Hook me up.
There's lots of acid going on at W3C. Don't you guys want the ability from JavaScript to connect to a database? Yeah, yeah.
What about USB devices?
Oh, that's in there, right? Web storage, because cookies weren't enough. Let's start serving our porn and wares from your browser, right?
Nice. I hadn't thought of that, but now that you mentioned it.
Excuse me? Yes.
And sockets.
File access, sockets. It can read the temperature of your hard drive and send it to the internet. Oh yeah, by the way, the W3C standard, they've obviously misunderstood the meaning of the word should. It should attempt to prevent this from going to the internet without alerting the user. We should. Bite me. These are the things they're building. I don't know about you, but I don't even want to know the temperature of my hard drive. Why would I want my porn sites to? Gmail.
It's getting hotter.
Yeah, that's it. These are the features we're getting. As we dive deeper into this idiocy, as we go forward into the wonderful horizon of vulnerability.
We will not go quietly into the night.
Oh, I've never been quiet.
We know, Kevin.
This is what we're getting at.
Yeah, absolutely quality. And it's just one of those things where, you know, over the last couple of years, you know, these features have become much, much more useful to all of us as pen testers. You know, so I say, you know, keep it going, bring it on. It's good stuff. We want it, and we want more of it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there's still time to go to the PCI panel. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Are there any questions, by the way? Since we're
Come on,
standing
big
up here.
Fat target. Can't you do better? He's more of a challenge. What about the hair? See? My brother can't even hit me.
By the way, if anybody's interested, that NSE script will be uploading as soon as Verizon, we confirm from them that they have a fix out. We'll upload that to the Nmap site.
Monday morning, whichever one comes first.